Literally, of a documentary about the founder of this building. For those of you who are not familiar with it, this name, Casa Italiana, Zerilli-Marimò, derives from the woman who established this institution 29 years ago by buying this building, this home, that it's a national monument because it was the residence of General Winfield Scott, restored it, furnished it, donated to New York University with two express intentions. The first one is that it would become the house of a self-standing Department of Italian Studies, no longer under the oppression of the French department, and that it would become an institution that would be open to the citizenship of New York, to the community, with cultural events of all kinds, presenting everything that Italy has to offer and to become a center of dialogue. Well, this woman not only happened to be from Milan, but she was a very, very proud Milanese, and she spoke the Milanese dialect, she sang the Milanese songs and everything else. So this is just 2 minutes of a documentary about her, and we can sit here and just turn a little bit, talking about Milan during the war and the rebuilding of La Scala, and she was a lover of music, and just these 2 minutes, because to me it was very important that Mariuccia Zerilli was somehow with us today to welcome the mayor of her beloved Milan.
So we have the Madonnina and La Scala, because for us La Scala is also another temple, you see. And the day, well, Madonnina was taken down before the war because, of course, they tried to save what they could, I mean. But La Scala was there, what could you do? And so it was bombarded, so the day for us, we really realized we were beaten, really, with that. It was terrible.
Ecco il teatro alla Scala di Milano, tempio musicale del mondo. La bieca furia della guerra si è abbattuta su di esso, profanando anche i ricordi di più di un secolo di glorie musicali.
To have the Scala out was, for us, was tragedy. So we were very poor, but the first thing we did was rebuild La Scala. It's a perfect horseshoe, and the proportions are so perfect, so beautiful, that you feel that it is a small theater. That kind of music was our first rinascita. It's, rebirth. In my life, I think it is the best period as an Italian, because really, of course, we suffered tremendously during the war. Of course, a war is a war, so you suffer. But afterwards, there was such a spirit. We knew it was our country. We knew that we had to. Afterwards, we were much helped by the Marshall Plan, you see. But before that, we already began, as Italians, we already began with what we had, but we already began to build up our factories, to build up our railroad, which was completely destroyed. We had such a wish of seeing our country to be reborn, that we all, no strikes, nothing. Everybody worked as much as they could. We were all there to really to rebuild, and it was a wonderful feeling. Wonderful feeling, I tell you, it was marvelous.
Ho visto queste due lampade ieri sera, ho detto ma che strano, è l'unico che ce le ha. Molto bello.
It's really a privilege for us to be here today like this when they are working. It's wonderful. Now, it's a really great theater. I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor Sala. And just very briefly, because he's a very public figure, and one of the good things when you introduce a very public figure is that you don't give a very long introduction. He's now the mayor of Milan. Previously has served as CEO and chairman of the Expo, one of the great successes of Milan, actually one of the initiatives that really launched Milan back in the international arena. And I would like to connect with what the Baroness just said, that in the time after the war, when they were desperately poor, but still the Milanese start with La Scala, start with culture, start with the arts. And it's one of the impressions that people have when they come to Milan now. I run every summer a program in Florence with students from NYU. And before, Milan was absolutely not one of their destinations. And now basically all of them go to Milan. So what is behind these? There is a plan, or it just happened, these different coincidences, different museums open or galleries? And is there a plan to further these cultural and artistic role for the city?
First of all, thank you for the invitation, and good afternoon, everyone. By the way, my office is just in the front of La Scala, and the address is Piazza della Scala number 2. And always, by the way, as mayor of the city, I am president of La Foundation La Scala. That is a sort of second job, because you can imagine the behavior, the attitude, the protagonism of the people who live for opera. It may be tremendous, but also very satisfactory. And the day of the yearly opening, it's so exciting. This year we invited the President of the Republic, and he got some 7 minutes applause, because he's representing now in Italy something that is, for us, fundamental. Now, something about Milan. When I started working in '83, Milan was an industrial city. I started working with Pirelli, and Pirelli was a symbol of the city, but we had so many industries. And then year after year, we lost many big industries. There was a period where apparently finance seemed to be the reply to our requirement, to the idea to build a new society. But now, in some way, we are working for a sort of mixed model where there are some characteristics that, working together, represent the city. First of all, we are a university city because we have 14 universities, 200,000 university students, that out of 1.4 million inhabitants, it's very clear that we are a university city, and 10% of those guys and girls come from abroad. Second, creativity is playing a fundamental role. Fashion, design, but when we say, for instance, when we say design doesn't, let me say, at the beginning, design meant furniture, sofas. Now design is everything, because even in the high technology industry, design is fundamental. So the creativity is marking the present moment of the city. And then tourism. And here we are in a sort of incredible story, because some years ago, Milan was not a touristic, definitely was not a touristic city. And the people from abroad and even from Italy, they went to Rome, Florence, and Venice. Then we started investing in culture, in new museum, in events, and we decided to go and to candidate ourselves for the World Expo 2015. And the result is that it is incredible, but in 4 years we doubled the tourists. So from 5 million per year, now we are around 9 million. That is an enormous result for us. Now, let me say, from an economic and financial point of view, we are in a very, very sound and solid situation. 30% of all the investment from abroad in Italy come to Milan. And 48% of all the investment in the real estate field come to Milan. And Milan is producing 10% of the Italian GDP. But it is fundamental now, from a social and political point of view, to underline that we want to be an example in Italy of growth, development, but at the same time, solidarity. Solidarity. You can imagine it is not easy to be a Democrat mayor now in the world, here in Italy, everywhere. In Italy, it is not simple because immigration, refugees, and trying to put together security and migration, so it's a problem. It is not easy to be faced, and I mean for a politician from the right side, they say we want a closed border, we don't want refugees. And for me, it's more difficult because my message to my fellow citizens is that, hey, look at the advantages we are having being an open and international and contemporary city in terms of tourists, in terms of investment, and so on. So even if you consider the immigration a price to be paid, we pay. Because we cannot open or close the door depending the day or depending, our specific interest.
Mr. Mayor, regarding this specific problem, you said you're a democratic mayor where the majority and the government is run by a different political party. And right now it's the same situation in the United States. And here as well, some mayors, including the mayor of New York, have taken a very open position, like you took along with some of your colleagues in Italy. So this is sort of a movement of the mayors responding to this attitude that is motivated by racism and xenophobia, trying to rationalize and try to really circumscribe the problem when it is a problem and not call it a problem when it's not. I want to know something more about the relationship that you have with the other mayors that took positions similar to yours. Would you, because they're not even from the same party. I mean, not all of them. There is Orlando, there is the Magistris, Naples, Palermo, and other ones. But
let me say, it is almost equal everywhere in the world, because even in UK, the government right and Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, left. And I cannot classify Macron, but the mayor of Paris has absolutely left. But the reason, it is very interesting to think about the reasons. In my opinion, is that now the political debate is trying to define a border between, or differences between populist and non-populist, let me say. But they see the situation even from another point of view, which is the difference between cities and countryside. The example I was giving you before, and my message can work in the city. When you go in a small village and you try to tell your citizen, hey, being open, we have advantages, probably they do not understand. It is not easy. So it is natural, probably, but we have to fight to tell everybody we can do it. In Italy, we have 9% of immigrants. In Milan, 20%, but it works. So for me now, it is fundamental to maintain the way. But it is also fundamental to work with the other mayor, not only for, the political interpretation, but also because, and let me go to the problem we have, because it is not all gold. We have a couple of fundamental problems. One is the difference between center and peripheries, still two different speeds. The second is environment. And let me tell you something about environment. We are not lacking from this point of view because we are in a sort of plateau with a scarcity of wind. But we try to manage the situation. How? For instance, building a subway, new metro lines, we are preparing the fifth one, and pay attention, with the fifth one, in 14 minutes, you can reach the center of the city from the city airport. That is nothing. On the meantime, we are investing a couple of billion to replace all the buses, all the gasoline buses with electrical. We will take 10 years, yes, but at the end of 10 years, we will have the result. And then, fundamental is the car, motorcycle, cycle, bikes sharing. And it is fundamental because the young generation is working, is appreciating that. They don't want to buy a car. 25 years ago, we had 73 cars per 100 inhabitants. Now we are at 51, and we can go down.
You
Of
gave
course,
up your car, Mr. Mayor.
I sold my car. I sold the car. I sold my car. I stay 1 year without car. Now my partner, who has mother of 3 children, is telling me I cannot anymore be your driver. So, so trying to stay in the right way, I'm buying an hybrid car, at least a hybrid car. But let me go to the conclusion. And of course, okay, we are offering a different opportunity to the citizens. Sometimes we are limiting the possibility for them. 7 years ago, we made a sort of congestion charge for the center of the city, and in 7 years, the result is that at least less 40% of traffic in the center of the city. Now, we are establishing, we established some weeks ago, and the first one is called Area C, where C is center. Now we are establishing a new area that is called Area B, where B means nothing but is close to C, that takes all the city. It's a sort of a low emission zone. It is controlled by cameras. And if you are owner of a Euro Diesel 0123, you cannot enter into the city. And we tell the citizen, then I give you 2 years, because then if you, even if you have Euro 4, you cannot enter. So you can imagine, for a mayor, it is not easy to tell the people you cannot use your car. But, and I come back finally to your question after this long speech. It is fundamental for me to tell my citizen, hey, this is a decision taken by the main mayor in the world, which are working together in the C40 partnership, because that is the way. If we wanna be an international open city, if we wanna be a contemporary city, okay, that is the way. So for me, it is fundamental to have those alliances, and I believe that this is the century of cities.
And as you might know, New York still hasn't adopted a congestion charge, but they're thinking about it. And of course, there are many resistances. So would you suggest to Mayor de Blasio to go ahead and do it?
I don't know.
You said a 40% reduction of traffic in Milan.
40%. Honestly, I see that the traffic in New York is worsening, but I know that, I hope that they are trying to facing the problem. We are a little city. We can teach something, for instance, in terms of waste management. We collect 65% of the waste in a separate way between paper, glass, plastic, and so on. And we burn out the rest. So 0 to landfill. We are considered one of the 5 best cities in the world. So at the end, everybody is talking about environmental issues, about what the greenest ideas, and that's true. But we are trying to be very, very pragmatic and very, very practical from that point of view.
And one of the reasons you were here in New York was these smart city, there are workshops and seminars in which you probably meet with other administrators and experts. Which would you say are the common challenges of the big cities in the world that you are facing? And how are you getting ready for them?
In my opinion, first one, it is to create new jobs, even if it is not officially in our duties, but we can take many action in that direction. Again, some example, with an example, it is more clear. We are working now on the 2030 city plan. And to be very honest, and the plan is based on urban development, mobility, and green. To be very honest, we are not saying we are against new construction, new building. But we say, if you want to build, you cannot steal one single square meter of green. And in some case, like, for instance, we have in Milan 7 former railway stations abandoned. We approved a plan for which the owner of the land can build everything, leaving 65% green, and if they build new residential houses, they have to leave 30% to, let me say, low price rent. That is the real challenge. And going ahead, okay, then we have a lot of green. Green is fantastic, but it is very costly. And one of the reasons for which I was discussing yesterday with Carlo Ratti, one of the reasons is that, okay, but what about green? Is it possible to work on new form of agriculture in the city or not? It is a challenge, but why not? The hydroponic agriculture is becoming a reality. So you see that point is, in my opinion, the cities are many things together. Trying to simplify, I believe that, first of all, the first pillar, the common general services have to work. Public transportation, cleaning, and security. That is fundamental. Second pillar, you have to give your citizen a vision, a long-term vision, and that on which we are working on the 2030 Milan. Third pillar, narrative. It is fundamental to tell the story of the city. That is one of the reasons for which I'm here, because now we are competing with the other international cities. We are competing with Berlin, with Madrid, to get the most talented students in the world. We want to be more attractive. We are, in my opinion, we are a very good city for young university students, because it is not a big city, because it works. It is a very vibrant city, but we have problem. One problem is
it's easy to move around.
It's easy to move on with the 5 metro lines. But we have problem. One problem is that we do not have enough affordable houses. It is a common problem. Yes, but we have to face the problem if we want to have and tell these young students, come to Milan and you will find a real opportunity for you.
And what are the other ways in which you and the rectors of this university are trying to develop Milan as a university city? The result you have now, the numbers are very good. And still you said that that's a part of your program that you want to expand. The presence of students and especially of foreign students. You want to be a point of attraction of brains to come, not necessarily Italian. What is the strategy? Which is the direction in which you're going? Which is the sectors you're going to empower the most?
Some action. First of all, it is not so easy in Italy to find university with a campus. But the universities in Milan, Politecnico, Catholic University, Bocconi University, are working to have a campus.
We don't have a campus either here.
No, okay, but I mean...
we are an urban university. It's not bad.
That is fundamental, because in many cities you find university with campus. Second, now we have 100 courses in English. Again, it is fundamental. And third, we are working to reinforce the relationship between industries, creativity, let me say, who is offering jobs with the university. Because I don't want them to study in Milan and then they leave. We are working because they come to Milan and probably they find a beautiful Italian girl or a beautiful Italian boy, and then they think to the idea to have a family in Milan, and they stay in Milan. So we want to have new blood for now and for the future. And so that is the reason for which we are not, I was saying before, it is not only gold, but probably there is not a right strategy, but there is a coherent strategy, and we are working on the coherence of all these actions.
Mr. Mayor, a few years ago, I was speaking with a colleague who teaches at the University of Milan, Statale, and he was telling me that every year the university sets a cap for foreign students, non-EU, not from the European Union. I wanted to know if that is still the case, that the university decides a maximum number of foreign students to be admitted, and whether you think that should change.
No, we are getting rid of that. We had 18,000 new students from abroad past year. So in reality, now it is not a problem. I mean, the problem are different. First of all, the cost of living, yes, if we compare with New York, maybe cheaper, but the cost of living is not low in Milan. And so housing is fundamental. So I want to be honest, we have still to work on many things in order to face the general request, because it is not bad to live in Milan, because I mean the city is very, I was saying, very vibrant. From a cultural point of view, it's very interesting. And think about that. It is the only city in Italy where, yes, you can see history, art, architecture, but on the meantime, it's a sort of window on the future, while Florence is beautiful, absolutely more than Milan, but it is not contemporary. And the same Rome, and the same Venice. So they are wonderful city, but we want to become attractive because we put together past, present, and future. That is very simply what we are trying to do.
Mr. Mayor, since we don't have a lot of time left, I would say that we start taking questions from the audience. What we're going to do, there is a microphone there, and I'm asking the people who would like to ask the question to please stand and go to the microphone, because we want to have them on camera when they ask the question for our video. Prego, vi accomodate qua, guarda, fatela qua dietro. Grazie mille anche a chi si sposta, grazie. So if you want to line up this way, if you have your question ready. Mr. Mayor, on the front of culture, is there any other museum opening? You have opened in the past 4 or 5 years an incredible number.
No, we are not.
You have a wonderful commissioner for culture, Filippo De Corno, I have to say.
Thank you.
And I judge from the outside, and I see many of them moving, and yours is...
Our decision is not to open a new museum. In reality, probably a new big giant contemporary museum would be a good thing, but I mean, we saw the Fondazione Prada, so from the fashion giant company. They made a wonderful museum. They invested some 300 million euros. So my idea is that, or we make an extraordinary museum. If Guggenheim is available to come to Milan, we can consider it. Otherwise, we work to promote even the Anga Becocca for Pirelli, the new museum from the private sector.
What about the Museum of Fashion? Italy doesn't have a Museum of Fashion.
We are working on that.
Individual designers have small things. Will you be able to put them together and have
we
a
are
museum of
working.
fashion?
I mean, you know, that word is not simple to be managed because
there are big egos.
In terms of protagonism,
yes,
they are extraordinary. They are absolutely a big value for us, but sometimes not easy to be managed. In any case, we are working to have a fashion design at La Triennale in Milan.
Thank you. Prego. If you want to say your name first and then the question.
Giusetta Capriati, great friend of Casa Italiana. Stefano, I think that we should remind the mayor that Baroness Zerilli-Marimò made a very special gift to the city of Milan.
Thank you, Giusetta.
By donating her precious collection of china, Capodimonte, etc., to the Poldi Pezzoli Museum. And I have some news, Stefano, for you. I spoke yesterday with the president of the museum, Count Gian Giacomo Attolico Trivulzio, who has accepted your invitation to come to New York in the fall and present the museum.
Thank you very much, Giusetta.
Thank you for that. Let me say one thing about that, which is in Milan, private-public partnership are working well. This is an example. Expo was an example, but it is fundamental that the private sector or the families trust in our activity.
And Pod di Pezzoli is a museum house, very important with a very glorious history. And the family of the Baroness donated her collection of ceramics to the Pod di Pezzoli. Prego.
Sono Angela Vitaliano, I am a journalist, and I am very bad with microphone. I am a Napolitan in love with Milano, and that is weird. So first of all, my thing is that usually in this period when nobody loves politicians, my page on Facebook was all, please say the mayor that we love him, we appreciate him, thank him for everything. So I'm bringing you the love from Milano and Italy. And then as a woman, as a feminist, and as a survivor from abuse, I want to thank you because when there was the inauguration of Salone del Mobile, you were the only one apologizing for the inauguration with only men. And you said, thank you. And you were the only one showing any kind of regret and saying it's not going to happen again. So I would like for us to know what Milano is doing to improve and implement policies for women.
Grazie.
Okay, thank you for the question. You're right, and I want to say they made a mistake because I was there. Then I was not the owner of the house, but we made a mistake, a terrible mistake, because we have to work with action, but also symbolic attitudes, and that was terrible. Even because what we are seeing now in Milan, that, for instance, in terms of new jobs, the unemployment is under a very strong reduction in Milan. But in terms of new jobs, the ratio is moving to female jobs. And that is very good. It is not, I mean, probably it is not for our action, but it is the, let me say, the environment which is inviting even the companies to consider the opportunity given from women. And the universities in these STEM degrees, we are seeing that again, the percentage of female is increasing. We have to work, first of all, we have to work in terms of security. We have to deliver action and also the idea that the city has to be secure for everybody, but first for women. We are establishing, we are building some women house of women in any zone of the city where women can go there, can tell, say something about doubts, can have information, can stay together. It is nothing, I don't know, so step by step, but for sure, this is one of the fundamental things, and thank you for your remind because I didn't tell before.
And I take this opportunity to greet another Milanese who is here with us, Eva Cantarella, who is a very distinguished professor of Roman and Greek law, and she was one of the pioneering scholars regarding the condition of women in antiquity, and her work as a feminist militant, but also as a scholar, very rigorous, is really something that remains and that has created a school of thought even here in the United States. Thank you, Eva, for what you've done and what you continue to do.
May I just add one word to what have already been told? I'm very grateful to the mayor, because really Milano improved during his 2 years now of really in an unbelievable way. And as it has been said, Milanese love their mayor, and I wanted just to say this and thank him very much.
Grazie, Eva. Prego.
Hello, my name is Giuseppina Pucci. I'm a former teacher and chairman of art at Washington Irving High School in this area. And my love for Italy began in high school with my Italian teacher. You must see the beautiful Cattedrale di Milano. So that was the first thing flying over. My question to you, I have two very brief questions. One is, where did you learn to speak English so well? I wish my Italian were that good. Did you learn in your
No,
childhood?
my English is not so good, but I
it is
mean,
very
it's,
good.
no, it's it depends on my previous career in the private sector. So working for multinational, I travel a lot. So I still have to improve, but perhaps it is sufficient to promote Milan, and that is the main scope of.
You have another question?
Yes, please. My second question is, how do you handle the immigration in your city? Because it's certainly a worldwide situation, and it's bleak. It looks very bleak. How do you handle that?
Thank you.
No, it's a very, very critical issue. You can imagine. We have a very laborious city, a city where work is a sort of second religion, or we cannot anymore say second religion. Once we had one religion, now we have, for instance, 70,000 people from Islam. But it's a sort of religion, honestly, work. So we tell everybody the only way to integrate is to find jobs for them. Otherwise, we lose the battle. You see now the situation in Italy, it is not easy. According to the new government, they are cancelling, they are or reducing the rights to all the refugees that are not in condition to be accepted from a legal point of view. Now, where is the problem? The problem is that from the time from when they landed to Sicily to the final decision to give them the permission to stay in Italy, it takes 2 years. And in the meantime, how they can survive if, for instance, with the illness or any problem, in that case, we in Milan say, okay, the government cannot do it, we will do it. So we will pay for them, we will find a way to give them the opportunity, if they enter into a hospital, to be in condition to find medicines and medical support. So again, it is not easy, but we are trying day by day, making action, for instance, asking them to make some voluntary services, very simple sometimes, cleaning, or if I host entrepreneurs, mainly from abroad, a very clear example for you. 1 year ago, Owa Schultz from Starbucks came to my office and he told me, hey, I started learning coffee in Milan many years ago. So I fall in love with Milan and coffee in the same time. And now I want to open the most beautiful store in the world, the most beautiful store. Can you help me in order to reduce red tape, bureaucracy? Time for me is fundamental, and for sure we work on that. At the end, I made him a very simple request. That is, when you will be ready, please hire 5% of your employees from the list of migrants that are waiting for a job. And they did it. So some little measures, but at the end, we want to be the real demonstration that it can work. And last thing, sometimes it is even fundamental to be, from a political point of view, to give demonstration. On the 2nd March this year, we organized a march in the city, and we had 250,000 people marching to say no to any form of racism, and it was an enormous success. And when the people say, yes, but the usual left, no. You can see there, in that march, there were Catholic, there were the union, there were everybody, families. So even from a symbolic point of view, I see that, I understand that now we have a duty. And last thing, to joke a little bit, I was before to the inauguration of the new museum at Liberty Island. So I made a short video, and the video was more or less like this. I'm here for this trip to New York and Washington to visit this wonderful museum. Then I entered into this museum, and for curiosity, I tried to understand how many Sala, like my family name, came here, and the number is more than 2,000. Then I asked how many Salvini passed through the island. 254. Now, dear Mr. Salvini, you can check on Facebook. Now, Mr. Salvini, I know the political issues means to represent your vision of the society, and we are different for sure. But when you enter here and you see our relatives entering without shoes and so on, a little more of art works.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Two more questions. And if we can go fast, and then it's all we can take.
Buonasera a tutti, grazie. Io sono Luciana Polni. Mi piace domande in inglese. New York City has a city council that passed a vision for the environment to be completely green by 2030. The work that's being done by young people in service industry places to eat, and the encouragement to wash every bit of plastic before you leave the place and put it in a proper recycling bin is what I experienced today. And I said, wow, we're on our way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we are very simple. We are working for that. For instance, we are trying to eliminate any plastic tools in our offices. I had a meeting in Washington. I saw the Senator Markey. I'm very curious about the Green New Deal. And my understanding is that probably someone is saying it is aspirational. Probably it is aspirational, but it is fundamental to have a framework, because mainly in the election time, having this sort of manifesto, this sort of framework, you push the people to be part of the discussion. So it is very, very, very fundamental for me.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. John Vincenti, I'm a practicing attorney here in New York. The future of cities is very often communication globally. Communication across all sorts of disciplines, from education to art to business and commerce. And I do a lot of work with Italian businesses and with businesses that want to do business in Italy. And there have always been great obstacles, real and imagined, for US businesses who are thinking about or being suggested to do business in Italy. They see it as a great trap for them. And there have been tremendous strides over the past years. What I'm wondering is, for Milano, which is at the vanguard of business and commerce, are there recent efforts or plans to further facilitate that kind of interaction, not just at the large company level, but at the more entrepreneurial levels, to permit more business and commerce to flow between these two countries?
Thank you.
You're right. You're completely right. So from this point of view, we are trying to copy London. In London, they have a private public company called London and Partners, with the scope to promote investment from abroad, universities, tourism, and to easier the investment, to clarify the situation. So we are making the same. The company name is, we are not very, with low fantasy, Milan and Partners, but we are working that because we lose opportunity for that. Sometimes perception is fundamental. Is it true or not? Who knows? But if due to the perception you decide not to come to Milan, we lose an opportunity.
Last question.
Okay, it's Alessandra Rotondi. I'm in fashion business. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Stefano. And since you mentioned that you went to the Statue of Liberty and also that you posted on Facebook, I would like to know, I follow you on all your media, social media, and I would like to know how you can handle the social media, because I follow you on Instagram, and every time that I like you, you like me back, and you reply to my post. And I do exactly the same with the one that you mentioned, the one who had only 344, others, Salvini, in the came to US, and maybe because I always criticize him, he never replies. How can you handle how important is social media to you, and how the success of Milan can be built through social media?
Social media are fundamental. They may be even a big problem. My personal behavior is that I manage alone Instagram, because for me it's even a sort of joke. I like to make picture, while on Facebook and Twitter I have a team. Of course, sometimes I give them indication, or I suggest them to reply or not, but let me say, to be honest, 90% is managed by them, while Instagram is my ground. Anyway, it is an opportunity and also problem, because it is clear to everybody that now you can get votes using the social media. Not only because you give the right message, but because the system is that I send you an email or a message. If you open that, if you don't open that, I cancel your name. If you open that and you keep open for 10 seconds, I send another one. If you keep open for 12 seconds, I send another one, and so on. So this is a technical approach. And unfortunately, in Italy, my political party, the Democrat, didn't understand the situation, so we leave the other one the opportunity to get a lot of votes. Now, we have to have in mind that the politician has to stay on a different level, but it is also fundamental to face this social war that is so critical in our present society.
We thank the Mayor of Milan for having given us this time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for being here with us to talk with him.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.